Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News on the South Florida Conservative News Site. It is Monday, June 9th, and California is on fire. But we're going to be talking about another group of fire makers, fire burners, bomb throwers, and all kinds of people that do not like pork sandwiches, and that is Islamofascism. And we're going to dive into the topic, both ancient and disturbingly modern. How Islamic ideological warfare is evolving in today's world. We're going to compare two competing strategic models used by regimes and movements across the Muslim world, what I would call civilizational jihad with ethical legitimacy. Sounds crazy. And the more familiar brutal form, which is Islamofascism. Okay, so let's begin with a question here for everybody in the peanut gallery. If the thing loads up, 1 second, will it load? Anything's possible. What happens when political Islam stops relying on bombs and instead reaches for books, the US dollar, and data centers? And what happens when it doubles down on terror, censorship, and revolutionary fervor? Both models seek to expand influence, but their methods and public faces are very different. So we're going to talk first on civilizational jihad with ethical legitimacy, okay? Think of wealthy Gulf states like Qatar or even Turkey under Erdogan's more sophisticated wing. The goal here is civilizational renewal, rebuilding the prestige of Islamic culture while embedding it into modern global systems. The playbook includes what we have what's called intellectual colonialization, which is funding Islamic studies chairs at Western universities. You hear a lot about that. Cultural subversion, which is when you're producing lots of slick media that blends faith with modern aesthetics. The easiest one for you to see is Al Jazeera, which is run by the Qataris. So if you watch Al Jazeera, that's owned by the Qataris, who are one of the largest state sponsors of terrorism in the world outside of Iran. And then legal and ethical framing, which is where they use international law and human rights language to shield Islamist movements. And of course, a little bit of controlled militancy through proxies like Hamas or certain volunteer brigades that are in Africa that are an alphabet of letters and pretty much just terror for sale. These regimes wrap themselves into the language of progress. They'll say AI governance, they'll say green energy, they'll say smart cities, while quietly building an ideological pipeline to the next generation. Victory for these people isn't just territory, it's global influence, changing the cultural norms from within. How many football clubs are owned by the Arabs at this point? Do you go see Formula One in an Arab country? They buy this, they buy that. And you say, why do they buy this? They don't even go to it. It's all part of the West. They're purchasing huge chunks of London, huge chunks of New York. I know we have a deal with Dubai down here in Miami. They come once a month and try to get people to buy properties in the Emirates. It's done at the Four Seasons. You can go there yourself. And so this is part of their deal. Now, Islamofascism, which is more the Iranian style, Hezbollah, Hamas, ISIS, ISIL, the usual suspects. This is the harder edged, brutal variant of Islam. Here we're looking at regimes, like I said, not so much just the Islamic Republic, but the Islamic Republic's Republican Guards groups, or our favorite, the Muslim Brotherhood, if they were given total power over an area, which may happen because, from what I understand, Egypt is in quite a crisis right now. And if Muslim Brotherhood were able to take over Egypt, the whole complexion of the Arab world would change overnight. That's all I can say on that. And you can look it up and you'll see where we're talking here. So here the goals are different. They are regional hegemony, which is they're exporting the revolution across the Middle East, just like Muhammad would have done, right? They are undermining the Western influence, both militarily and through propaganda, and also, of course, through their partners in the West, in the media, and in the socialist movements in the universities. Total state control, which is where they suppress dissent in their own countries through secret police and militia groups. And the tactics are far more blunt. It's proxy militarization, which means arming groups like Hezbollah, informational warfare, state controlled media, and cyber operations. Kill the Jews, kill the Jews, kill the Jews, and possibly the Americans if you catch one. Religious diplomacy is the funding of mosques and clerical training worldwide. There is an uptick in the construction of mosques around the world outside of the Arab world, and they are recruiting centers, if nothing else. You will even see them in center of places you wouldn't expect, like in Bangkok, okay, which has its own little Muslim war going on down there at the base near Malaysia, but that's a story for another time. And then you have a domestic theocracy, which we have the morality police, the Sharia police, executions, internet censorship, things like that. These things are already creeping out into Germany and into France, where there are no-go zones in major cities, where there are morality police or Sharia police who will chase the local people out of the neighborhood, especially women that are dressed improperly. So, unlike civilization jihad, which wears a suit and tie on the world stage, Islamofascism wraps itself in martyrdom and in revolutionary slogans. Victory here is openly about domination and suppression by force if necessary. So, what are we talking about and why should we care? Well, first and foremost, the Arab mind does not work at the same level that the Western mind works. They are kind of more along the Chinese line where their timing is in centuries. So things don't have to happen right away, okay? Because both of the models that we're talking about here on the Arab world are at work today, and both seem to me and are in all appearance out there to undermine the liberal democratic order. The polished face of civilization jihad is far more dangerous in some ways. You would say Mohammed bin Salman, perhaps, in Saudi Arabia. Maybe not him, but that fellow who works for him as his cousin. It slips past Western defenses under the banner of multiculturalism and human rights, or business as usual, where we want to become progressive like the West. A lot of different stories going on in there. Meanwhile, Islamofascism is the muscle. You know, they have proxies, their weapons, their terror groups. They're keeping the conflict simmering. They're keeping it real in jihadi world, as far as you're concerned, right? And together they form a kind of pincer movement. One, right, is hearts and minds, and the other one destabilizes regions and drains American influence. So it would be best if you get the opportunity. Let's go off camera once again. I think I'm off camera. This book here, which you can buy anywhere, it's not that expensive, it's not that thick, is an excellent book by Mr. Harold Rhode and explains a lot of the psychology behind how the Arabs fight. I would suggest it to you. We don't have a portal, and for the price, they couldn't charge anything more if they wanted to. But I would take a look at that book if I were you. There are a few good books out there, but that would be one to get you started if you have an interest in studying these people, because they, regardless of what's going to happen with the Chinese, you're going to have to deal with the Arabs at some point. All right. So understanding these models is the first step toward countering them. We cannot afford to be blind to how today's ideological warfare operates. It's not just fought on battlefields anymore. Look at California. What do you think is going on out there, right? These are all symptoms of a very similar template that is used throughout the rest of the world. It's fought in the boardrooms, it's fought in the classrooms, and it's fought on our screens. So, like I say, stay frosty if you must. And that's what we have for now. So thank you all, and I will talk to you later on. Goodbye.